Hello, everybody. What another day in the market. I did not sell MetaPlanet. Are we headed for the mother of all squeeze? That's what I want to talk about in this video. Of course, MetaPlanet, tough to buy. You gotta get the right broker. But when I bought this stock, I guess it was 9 days ago now, I bought it. I thought, it's a good stock. It's a good hold for the long run. I never enter a trade. I buy only stocks for the long run. I was like, okay, it's a 2.7x MNAV, but it acquires Bitcoin much faster than MicroStrategy. So I like it at around $4. I'm fine holding it for, the next decade plus. And then next thing you know, we found ourselves in this conundrum, in this scenario where I'm almost at a 4x in 9 days, and I got in late. Keep in mind, I got it late. Those of you with better brokers, you got into the 2s and the 3s. But anyways, so now it's kind of a problem. What do you do with a position that's just 4x'd in 9 days? Because it's gonna mean revert at some point if history is any indication. I'm pretty sure of that. But the question is it the time that this means revert? And in my view, this is nowhere near the time. Why? Because Bitcoin, we are essentially going to say it's in price discovery mode. It ran all the way to almost 110, trying to do that price discovery until we had a little moment in the market, a little fearful moment in the market with a failed 20-year Treasury auction. The Treasury did not raise nearly as much as they wanted for these 20-year bonds, and those 20-year bonds, are out around 5% interest. So the 20-year, that's not a thing, but the 20-year, the U.S. is borrowing money over 20 years at 5%. So the rates are going up. This is the same for Japan. The rates are going up. At this point, I don't think even the central banks dropping the rates is going to do anything to help states who actually need to refinance that debt. I think we're going to have QE in a big way, but that's a topic for another video. The topic for this video, of course, is that Bitcoin is being seen as a safe haven with no counterparty risk. You have your keys, you own the Bitcoin, and of course, that's why we're seeing Bitcoin hit 109. Now, obviously, you have somewhat of a counterparty risk if you own Bitcoin in a company, but we're not going to go there today. We're going to trust that they hold the keys, right? And back to the MetaPlanet story. So there's two stories to MetaPlanet. There's the fundamental stuff, and then there's the squeeze. So let me start with the fundamental stuff. The Japanese folks are starved for yield. We're lucky in the USA to have 5% paid by the government over 20 years, right? The Japanese don't have that. It's 3%, and keep in mind, even that's a recent rise from the 2% range. Us in the US, we have 5% because of failed treasury auctions. So anyways, we're lucky in the USA. They're not as lucky as us, and so they're starved for yield. And of course, when they see a company like MetaPlanet who's just going up, they want that return. And it doesn't mean that you're a degen. It doesn't mean that you're not putting all of the portfolio in MetaPlanet. But I think a lot of Japanese people are like, okay, well, this stock is moving really fast. It's the best performing stock of 2024. Let me add a small percentage to it to my portfolio so that I can spice up the returns in my portfolio. And that's why I think there's a lot of Japanese folks who are genuinely interested in the stock, as I am. And then what's interesting, of course, is the fundraising mechanism. You have the Bitcoin per share, Bitcoin yield, increasing the Bitcoin per share on a regular basis. And of course, MetaPlanet does it differently. MetaPlanet does it with moving strike warrants. And essentially, it's the delta between the open and the close that can lead to a buy. And it's going to be an enormous buy. In fact, it's going to be the limit up buy going forward as long as the Japanese stock catches up with the US and German traded values for the stock, because Japan has the limit up. I'll get to that in a second. And of course, I roughly understand how it works. Like, I'm still not to the point where I can do a 5-minute math video explaining moving strike warrants, but I've had a few conversations with AI, and this is pretty much how it works. Is the delta, the bigger the delta, the more you're going to issue new shares to turn around and buy Bitcoin right away. So, and you only do that on green days. You don't do it on red days. There's no issuance on red days. There's only issuance 20% on green days. And I think we're going to see major Bitcoin yield for that company over the next few days because the stock has to catch up in Japan, and the stock can only go up 20% a day because of the limit up story that I'll get to in a second. There's also a short-term short squeeze, right? A short squeeze, and it's tough for me to find exactly where the squeeze or how much the squeeze or what's the exact amount. I see 60% as the number being floated around, but you can see the stock, MetaPlanet, just opens and then it limits up. And then, boom, you're up 20% for the day. You're not moving anymore, or 19% in that case. You're up 150 yens, and boom, you can't move anymore. And then the market facilitates, of course, the sales at in this case, 933 yen. But there's no sellers, right? You have to assume all of the sellers are gone because they see the cost of the Japanese stock. They see the cost of MetaPlanet in Germany and in the US. And this is where you get into the reflexivity, kind of a buzzword right now, but you get into that loop around the world where you have the Japanese stock market opens, right? And the Japanese open, well, it typically follows the US open, and the US open typically follows the German open, and the Japanese market opens all over again. I did it backwards, but you get what I mean. You know, let's assume the time starts in Japan. Japan opens the stock market, then it shuts down, and it presumably goes up right now 20% because we're up way higher on all of your exchanges. Once it shuts down, Germany follows. Germany opens up, and then it's the US who opens up. And so we essentially have a stock here that is traded nearly 24 hours, not quite, because there's a 3-hour gap between US trading and Japanese trading hours, but you're pretty much trading it around the clock. And so that's a new form of reflexivity, which I think could amplify the squeeze. It could amplify the squeeze. If you followed the GameStop story back in the day, you know, there was some talk between US firms and UK firm because they had it in the UK, the buy button was gone in the US. MetaPlanet is a worldwide thing. So you have German, US, and Japanese investors, and it's quite fascinating. And I think this reflexivity across 3 stock markets could really amplify the squeeze. It could really amplify the squeeze. And again, so this is going to be it. So. And this is the limit up conversation. And if you know more in the comment section, please tell me. But the Japanese stock market, like I said, is a little weird or odd. It kind of feels like socialism that doesn't work, because what happens is essentially the stock's going to catch up, but it's going to catch up over multiple days, because over the short term traders have capped gains. Essentially, that's the only way to say it, because they only allow the stock to go up for the prices of MetaPlanet in yen. It seems to be about 20% or about 100 yen or 200 yen. The TSC, the Tokyo Stock Exchange, kind of puts a limit, a daily price limit that, you know, reduces volatility. A lot of Asian stock markets do that. Like famously in Korea, for example, they'll ban short selling in periods of volatility, for example. So they have that, but here's the problem. The people who have shorted the stock, they need to buy the shares to cover. But they can't buy the shares in the Japanese market, because once the Tokyo Stock Exchange fixes the price and says, oh, the price is 933 and you can only trade it at 933, once it fixes the price, you likely have no seller in Japan anymore. So they have to go to the German market and they have to go to the US market to buy the shares over there and to cover in presumably another account somewhere at the bank to cover with the stock trading in the US or the stock trading in Germany, and waiting for MetaPlanet to catch up with that imbalance, because we may have multiple plus 20%, plus 20%, plus 20% days in Japan, while in the US, you might have the price go up and down. And so that's what I said here, 20% back-to-back in Japan's. I think that's what could happen. And meanwhile, for us statewide, we could have 100%. today, right? We're at 100%. Maybe tomorrow we have minus 40% if Bitcoin dumps. I don't know. I don't think so. But we're going to see a stark difference between what the price is trading at in Japan versus what the price is trading at in Germany and the US because of a limit up issue. So, in short, the US markets could get ahead of themselves, but let's face it, I don't think that's the case just yet. In fact, they don't even talk about it on CNBC. They don't talk about it. This is barely trending on X. This is not a trending story. This is still a small stock compared to MSTR. So this story is still flying under the radar. And of course, because of that story being under the radar, I don't think we're anywhere near a sell point. Maybe I'm wrong, no financial advice, because my view on this stock is, and this is what I like the most, is with this gap up 20%, gap up 20%, gap up 20%, I think we are going to have major Bitcoin yield, and that Bitcoin yield will be added to the balance sheet. And the volatility and the price that you see now, it may go back down, it may go up a little more, it may go up a lot more, and then go back down even more violently. And that's not forever. And the price that you see today on MetaPlanet is not forever. But guess what's forever? It's the Bitcoin yield. It's the balance sheet. The balance sheet is forever. You're raising permanent capital at the end of the day. And so even though your stock price in fiat might revert back to the mean, the Bitcoin on the balance sheet is there to stay. And in conclusion, I'm not interested in selling at this price. I don't want to have to pay the high taxes. I'm in a high tax bracket. I'm not interested in doing that, especially on short-term gains, right? And that's in the US. Unfortunately, short-term gains are taxed at ordinary income. So no way I'm doing that. So I think I'm just gonna HODL. Wink, wink. Bitcoiners will get the quote. And so we'll see where this goes. This was not financial advice, not investment advice, just entertainment. Hoping you're entertained. Please please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.